Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected international calls for a ceasefire in Gaza, including a non-binding resolution backed by the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. In a meeting with Israeli soldiers, Netanyahu said that the military would continue its offensive against Hamas, which is classified as a terrorist organization by the EU, as well as the US and other nations.
I say this even given the great pain and the international pressure. Nothing will stop us. We will continue until the end, until victory, and nothing less than that. I thank you. We do it because of you, through you, with God's help and with your help. Thank you so much.
Israel is doubling down on its pursuit of Hamas despite international calls for a ceasefire. So what more do we know about the leaders of the group designated as a terrorist organization by numerous countries? Well, Hamas's supreme leader is Ismail Haniyeh. He functions as its international spokesman and is based in Qatar, out of reach for Israeli ground forces. Mohammed Deif is the top commander of the Qassam brigades, Hamas's military wing. He is believed to have played a crucial role in planning the October 7th terror attacks. His deputy, Marwan Issa, is also wanted by Israel as part of Hamas's three-man military council. And then comes Yehya Sinwar at the top of Israel's hit list. He's considered the mastermind of the October 7th attacks and the head of Hamas in Gaza. We look now at Sinwar's rise to power since his release from an Israeli prison more than a decade ago.
Yehya Sinwar was given a hero's welcome in Gaza when he was freed in a 2011 prisoner exchange. An Israeli official now describes that move as the worst mistake in Israel's history. Since then, Sinwar has vowed to fight for the release of all remaining Palestinians being held in Israeli jails, currently estimated to be some 7,000 people. Sinwar grew up in the Khan Yunis refugee camp and was detained by Israel in the late 1980s. During interrogations, it emerged that he was involved in the killing of a dozen Palestinians suspected of collaborating with Israel. Former Shin Bet security official Michael Kubi, who spent more than 100 hours interrogating Sinwar, described him as both rational and ruthless.
Yehya Sinwar was at the prison. He was the chief of the whole Hamas prisoners. He told me the Hamas is my wife, the Hamas is my child, the Hamas for me is everything. I'll make everything to succeed as a Hamas officer and be sure that I'm going to kill a lot of Israelis in Gaza or outside Gaza.
Sinwar used his time in prison to learn Hebrew and study his captors. He became convinced that Israel could be pressured into releasing large numbers of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Israeli hostages. After Sinwar himself was released, he capitalized on the networks he'd built in prison to become Hamas's chief in Gaza alongside leader Ismail Haniyeh. When Sinwar was reconfirmed in the post in 2021, he again pledged to get all Palestinians freed from Israeli jails. While some in Israel may have believed Sinwar was a pragmatist who could be worked with, behind the scenes Hamas was plotting attacks on an unprecedented scale. As Hamas presses for the release of imprisoned operatives, the miscalculations surrounding Yehya Sinwar will be a powerful reminder to Israel of the risk of making a wrong decision.
With me now in the studio is Hans Jakob Schindler. He's Senior Director of the Counter-Extremism Project, a non-profit NGO that works through policy and research to combat extremism. Welcome, Mr. Schindler. We're calling Yehya Sinwar the mastermind of the October 7th attacks, but talk to us a bit more about his role in these attacks. What did he exactly do?
Thank you so much for having me. Sinwar really is the key terrorist actor within Hamas. He was, as your colleague pointed out, really at the outset with Hamas. He has set up not only the terrorist infrastructure of Hamas, but also was involved in setting up the internal security service of Hamas, who is hunting what they call Palestinian collaborators, those who cooperate with Israel. He is also one in the leadership that was very hard arguing for the relationship with Iran. And if you look what happened on the 7th of October, it is very atypical for Hamas strategy and methodology to do something of that scale, more like a program, like military operation, that clearly has the signature of Iran.
And what did he want to achieve with these attacks then?
Well, clearly, he has a couple of aims. So, number one, he wants to get the Palestinian prisoners out. This is important for Hamas in order to ensure its political survival within the Palestinian community, because the price that the Palestinians are paying for this attack is enormous. So, he needs to get the prisoners out. Secondly, he wants to isolate Israel. And in this one, the Hamas propaganda around the world has become quite successful, unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, reversing who is the victim and who is the perpetrator here quite effectively. And of course, he wants to ensure the survivability of Hamas, and that's why they will keep a last remaining group of hostages, and I'm quite sure will ask for the exit of some key individuals from Gaza in exchange for releasing those hostages.
I do want to talk to you about Hamas in greater detail, but just to go back to a point you were making about Iran, are you saying that Iran was involved some way with the October 7 terror attack?
There is no concrete information that Iran set up and determined the date. But the way that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who is also another proxy of Iran in the Gaza Strip, operated is very similar to the way that Iran proxies in Iraq or in Syria or Hezbollah is operating. So very clearly, Iran has been building up Hamas capabilities to do this kind of operations rather than to what Hamas has done before, smaller scale terror attacks and suicide bombings.
Right. We've talked about Sinwar's role in Hamas, and before we started this conversation, we were talking about some of the other leaders of Hamas, a lot of whom are based in Qatar. Talk to us about the role that these other leaders play in Hamas.
Yeah, so Hamas is a rather large operation which has this terrorist arm, but it also does a lot of social work within the Palestinian territories and has a lot of companies around the world. The top leaders, the top three, live in Qatar, and it's really unbelievable that Qatar still protects those individuals on its territory. But they're also members of what's called the Politburo, the upper echelon of the decision makers in Lebanon as well as in Turkey. And the key finance manager of Hamas is also in Turkey.
So when Israel says, the head of the domestic intelligence agency said that Israel wants to find and kill Yehya Sinwar and also eliminate Hamas entirely, it would mean that Israeli operations would have to extend beyond Gaza, correct?
Well, I mean, it depends really what you say, eliminate entirely. So the Israeli government already announced that it will hunt Hamas leaders wherever they are on the globe. And we've seen some Hamas leaders actually moving as a reaction to that announcement from Shin Bet. However, what happens right now is the degradation of the physical infrastructure. That buys time to then hopefully, through educational, economic means, drying up the fertile ground where an extremist Hamas ideology can take hold in the Palestinian territories. So there is a several-stage operation here involved, which will go on for years. First the physical infrastructure, then the basis for the ideology.
But all this physical infrastructure, the damage that we are seeing in Gaza, I mean, that is causing outrage around the world. You also had US President Joe Biden talking about indiscriminate bombing, almost as a warning to Israel. Is that not playing into the hands of Hamas?
Absolutely, but the Israeli government here is in a no-win situation after October 7th. Had it not reacted, it would have invited more terror attack. If it reacts, it will encounter civilian casualties. This is unavoidable. However, this is exactly what Hamas wants Israel to do. It needs the pictures in order to get international outcry and isolate Israel. And the idea is to isolate Israel faster than Israel is able to destroy its physical infrastructure.
Talk to us about what comes next in this Israeli campaign to eliminate Hamas. We're looking at the destruction of physical infrastructure here. We're looking at a military campaign. What comes next? What needs to happen next?
So once the physical infrastructure is under control, the tunnels, the leaders hopefully arrested or killed, then, of course, there will be a phase of Israel military control of the Gaza Strip. And then comes the real hard questions. And no one really has a good answer yet. And no country has come forward to volunteer yet. What happens to the Gaza Strip afterwards? The Israeli government has made very clear they do not want to govern Gaza indefinitely anymore. We need some kind of an international structure to govern Gaza, whether it's through the UN or coalition of the willing or the European Union. But so far, unfortunately, no one has come forward and is willing to govern Gaza.
Maybe this is not a yes-no question, but I'll ask it anyway. Israel wants to eliminate Hamas. Can it?
Difficult. What it can do is to make sure that Hamas, as an ongoing terrorist concern, is no longer, or for a very long time not, able to do anything compared to the 7th of October. That is militarily achievable. If the international community cooperates on drying out Hamas's income streams, including its help from Iran and from Qatar, as well as donations here from Germany and European Union that went to Hamas. If the international community helps Israel to set up a more sustainable governance structure in Gaza that doesn't allow another extremist ideology to emerge, then it's possible, but we are talking about really a long time here. Hamas has been founded in 1988 and is still active there. At least the same time will be needed to eradicate it.
We'll leave it there for the time being, but thanks so much for breaking that down for us, Hans Jakob Schindler. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Let's get more on this from journalist Hazem Balusha. He was until recently in Gaza and joins us now from Jordan. Welcome back to the show. It's good to see you. One of Israel's top priorities is to find Yehya Sinwar. What do we know about his whereabouts?
It's not easy to say. Hamas has facilities above the ground and what they call like town or city of tunnels beneath the ground. Apparently, according to different reports, and that's logical, that Sinwar is in one of the tunnels beneath Gaza. According to the latest report that one of the hostages was released, said that Sinwar met her and told her that she's in the safe place. So that everybody believes that Sinwar is in one of the tunnels under the ground.
How are the Israel Defense Forces going about finding him then? Because it is a vast network of tunnels under Gaza.
Well, this is what the Israelis are, aiming for. I'm not sure how. Many Hamas leaders were found and killed in this war. Some senior people, some of them were in the tunnel, some of them like different places. Over the years that Israel could reach those people. Sinwar is a target, but it's not clear that how Israel is gonna do that. They reached his house in Khan Yunis, which was empty, and definitely he wouldn't be there. It's in a known place and obvious. Definitely Sinwar and other leaders are taking high measures of being hidden.
Mm-hmm. In recent days, we have been receiving reports that Israel is trying or experimenting actually already with flooding Hamas's vast tunnel network where, as you say, some of its leaders are believed to be hiding, but also some of the hostages are believed to be. What more can you tell us about all of this?
The reports about this is very limited. There was one or two reports, one from international media saying that, or quoting some Israeli officials or through Americans, that they would flood the tunnels with this water, with the seawater. But on the ground, I checked with different sources and different areas. Maybe nothing happening until now. They say it would be a good idea, but I don't know how practical this. Nobody knows how these tunnels are connected, and if they flooded from one side or different sides that would cover all the tunnels. It's not a clear plan announced by an official side. Some Israeli media are talking about this, but it's not known or clear how that would be sufficient or functioning.
In a recent article that you published, you quoted a Palestinian official who claimed Sinwar was trying to portray himself as the second Yasser Arafat. Is that how Palestinians see him too?
It's not easy to say. The Palestinian society is divided for a long time. We are Palestinians like in division since 2007 when Hamas took over the Palestinian Authority and kicked out the Palestinian officers belonging to the Palestinian Authority. Since then, the division is very high, and there is a high polarization among the society. Some of those who are in Hamas and they are affiliated, of course, they see him as that leader. Sinwar, to be mentioned that he's the head of the Hamas political bureau in Gaza. Hamas has 3 bureaus, mainly one in Gaza, one in West Bank, and abroad. And it's the top of that is Ismail Haniyeh, who's based in Qatar. But Sinwar is very active since he was released in 2011, and he became very close to the military wing of Hamas.
That's journalist Hazem Balusha in Amman. As always, great to get your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.